Welcome to There is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell. I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business since 1994. That's 28 years. Today's topic is going to be about anxiety and exercise. That's come up a lot this past week. And man, I think it's just so important, and we should understand if it's myth or fact. Before I get into that, I want to thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They're absolutely the best at what they do. If you need to sell your house, they'll list it for you. If you need to buy a house or buy a business, they will help you find what you need. Please give them a shout at 386-451-2412. I can absolutely vouch for them. I know them. Great people. Give them a shout. All right, so let's talk about anxiety a little bit. One of the things I like to always handle on this podcast is there's a method to the madness. In other words, let's talk a little bit about the science that makes things true. Let's talk about the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. You will see all kinds of little memes on Instagram and catchy little tweets and all on Twitter, and maybe memes or people's opinions on Facebook, and say, I started exercising and my anxiety levels are so much better, or they'll have a funny meme that goes with it. And all that's great or true, but I think a lot of people want to know why it's true and what the validity of it is. And so that's what I like to do in these podcasts, is talk about more like why it's true, because then I think it'll reinforce it in you, and then you'll understand it better, and then do it if it's the reason why you exercise, which, look, I think it's a great reason to exercise. I think that for me personally, it's one of the top. I just lump in mood and anxiety per se together with that. It's like I've said on this podcast countless times, it's like if I got a meeting of some sorts I have to do, or I'm going to be speaking, if when that happens, or I've got a difficult conversation I need to have on the phone or FaceTime or in person or whatever, I joke and say, well, I never am going to do that before I exercise, because I know my mood will be definitely different, so I know that about myself. Some people are like, well, I'm not going to do this before that. With me, it's exercise, because it's definitely going to settle me down, slow me down, bring me clarity. Like, that's the biggest thing. I can, I'll take this morning, for example. Thursday mornings, I tend to do a moderately longer, not long, but like long run. Like my personal schedule is, for running, I do like a longer run on the weekend, and then I tend to do 50% of that duration on Tuesday, and then 75% of it on Thursday, and then I build it on Saturday. That's typically what I do. Works pretty good, breaks it up. It's a nice little program. So on Thursdays, I have a 7 o'clock client, and he's typically here a little bit early, like 6:45. So I know that I have to, be done and be here. So I get up, and of course, I have a dog, Hazel, and she needs to be tended to first. So she needs to be fed, she needs to go out, and then she needs to be walked. So that takes a little time. So I always know, like, there's stuff I have to get done, and I also know that I just can't linger in bed for as long as I want to, so I have to get up somewhere a little bit after 5. And if I get too much later than that, I'm not going to get the running, and oh boy, I would feel sorry for my 7 and 8 o'clockers, because, I'm going to be like a little crabby until I get that done. So what I'm alluding to, though, is the whole mood going into it. So it's like, oh God, it's humid out. It's dark, and, I don't like running in the dark. I just never have. It's not about tripping or whatever. It's just, I don't know. I've never liked it. Like, I like vitamin D. I like that sun. I don't like it when it's hot. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, I probably would prefer hot and sun versus darkness. I just don't like it. It just really affects me. So that I got that going against me when I head out the door early. And, then I walk Hazel, and that's a mile. And then, that's taking a little time. And then I throw her little poop bag away. I give her her treat for walking and drink some heat and head out the door. But I'm not like overly in the best of mood at that point. Maybe I'll say hello to a neighbor. Maybe it's just a good day if I don't flip them off. You know what I mean? So, but then I head out on the run with this, irritability. And usually by a mile, I'm like, okay, good. I'm, pretty warmed up. But the key is when I'm done, everything is slowed down a little bit. The thing I was maybe irritated about bringing into it, I'm not so much anymore. My mind is clear on all regards. I'm definitely cooling down a little. I'm sweaty and all that. That's, it's still there, of course. But as far as the mental clarity, it's absolutely there, So mental health, emotional health, I guess, is a better way to put it, is so much better when I exercise. So that's just on me. And I would say it's definitely in my top 1, 2, 3 reasons why I exercise, for sure. Now, is there a physiological reason why anxiety is increased when we don't exercise? And the answer is yes. We have to remember that I don't know if we tend to forget, but when I read different things in all walks of life, not just physical fitness, but everything, politics and sociology and business, it's almost like we people forget we are animals. We might be at the top of the food chain and all that, but we are biological animals. Like, that's what we are. And we tend to think, well, no, we're, super robots or something that, don't respond, act, or whatever like animals. We're different. No, we're not. We have a different part of the frontal lobe, or I should say a more developed portion of the frontal lobe, which enables us to make decisions and hold memories and project into the future, which may or may not be good depending on, your circumstances or how you think. In other words, that could be very anxiety producing for you, but I don't think we don't want that either. It's more of a, happy medium. But so yeah, we might think a little bit differently as far as we know from most species, but at the same time, we still are animals, meaning we have different systems. We have our muscular systems, we have our cardiorespiratory systems. And what I'm alluding to is we have our endocrine system, and our endocrine system is the system that releases hormones. So we have hormones. Of course, we have hormones. So we're going to have all of the influx of hormones in our system that, say, other animals are going to have. And we also have to remember that our bodies were not necessarily created for the 21st century. Like, they were created where we were hunters and gatherers. And I've said it before on many, many different podcasts, our bodies designed to keep us alive. Homeostasis is what it seeks. So that's the way the system is built, on homeostasis and survival. So if we're built for more Paleolithic times, which is really what our bodies were designed for, what were created, our physical bodies. I'm not alluding to the fact that I don't believe in spiritual bodies or emotional bodies. No, I have, my opinion is I do believe in that. I'm just saying that our physical bodies are designed for different times. They weren't designed for the luxuries and conveniences that we have today. They just weren't. We weren't designed to basically sit around and think nearly as much as what we do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Sometimes we're like, oh, I wish we can go back. It's, no, I don't know about that. I mean, there's a saying I heard the other day that a poor person today, and that's not derogatory, that's just, when you hear the rest of the statement, you'll get it more, but is better off than a king in the 15th century, so, you're like, no way. It's like, well, when you think about it, yeah. I mean, think about what they had and all that stuff. So, there's just so much truth to that. So I'm not saying that we want to go backwards, and that's, impossible anyway. So, that's not even the point. But what I am saying is, as far as like the modern things that we pay for today, so there's a cost for our inactivity. So the reward is the fact we have so much more technology and things that can do things for us to help us survive. But the payment we pay out is we're paying it in our emotional health, unless we do something about it. Okay, so again, there's a method to the madness. Is all about the science that gets behind all this. So again, the big key here is that we were built physically for hunting and gathering and survival, and we didn't have computers, and we didn't have all these cars, we didn't have houses. We were designed to survive. That is what our lizard brain still knows to this day. It's funny. I have a client out right now. He's working out. He's a psychiatrist, and it was funny. Funny in a ha-ha way too. But he's an interesting guy, and we have conversations, and we like talking about stuff like this. And a couple weeks ago, we were outside, and he was getting ready to do squats or something like that. And I saw a car coming in, so I was like running to kind of get out of the way, and he just, like, not from getting hit, but I mean, I was trying not to be an asshole, and I was getting out of the way of the car in the back alley, but he didn't see the car. He saw my reaction, and he told me, because, we have, conversations. He says, for a split second, it was like I thought like the police were coming or something, and you jolted, and then my instant thought was to run too, even though, like I said, he's a psychiatrist, and, there's nothing for him to run about. But we talked about how, like, and then the lizard brain doesn't know. I mean, it's, in other words, that's classical conditioning when that happens. That means that's reflexively, and we don't have time to think about it, which is operant conditioning. Operant conditioning means that we have a stimulus, the car, and then in classical conditioning, we have the response. It's immediate. So car equals run, especially when you get startled. It's like you can run up behind somebody and startle them, and they're going to jump. They might even swing. I mean, I've, paid that price before once, and could I get mad? I mean, no, I went up. Yeah, I like to startle people, I don't know what that says about me, other than, I'm an asshole, I guess. But, so I do. And then, like, I caught an elbow. I'm like, oh, damn it. But it's like, I had it coming, right? I mean, did they mean to elbow me? No, it's, we react that way. And so oftentimes we forget we're animals. It's like, we get so mad, can't believe that neighbor's dog. I put my hand out and it nipped at me. It's like, well, if I came up behind you and startled you, you're going to swing at me. So it's, get off our high and mighty. We're not that different. We're not different at all. We react very quickly to things because why? Biologically, we're supposed to. That's a necessary component. If we get startled like that, we're supposed to run, because in the old days, before protection and everything, you didn't know what was coming to get you, right? There's predators and prey. We used to be both. Now we're more predators, right? So anyway, there's the biology behind it, but I thought that was funny because that's just a great example of how we're just not that different. All right, so what was that hormone that immediately made him want to sprint when I ran because I saw a car jumping out of the way? That's adrenaline. So we get adrenaline. Flight or fight is what adrenaline provokes in us. We want to flight, which is run, or fight, which is obviously fight. That's adrenaline. So that's given to us when we have something to do, given to us, produced by the endocrine system, I should say, when we have something we have to do immediately. In other words, we see a traffic light and, we're startled, we have to slow down. Or worse, we are going through a yellow light and we see a car coming and say, oh man, we got to get on it. And thankfully that adrenaline gets us to react quicker than we normally would have. So that's one of the things that adrenaline does. Adrenaline gets us pumped up, okay? Now, on the opposite side of that, we have the relaxation response, okay? And we have different hormones that enable us to relax. Serotonin is one, endorphins are another. So they're ones that actually help stabilize us, all right? Now, if we are not moving around a lot and we have a lot of different stresses going on, stress can't differentiate between stress. A fellow by the name of Hans Selye is the father of the stress adaptation response, taught us that. I'm trying to think. I think it was somewhere in the 1940s, 1950s, and they came up with the adaptation stress model, which basically says that like stress goes through a certain cycle, all right? And no matter what the stress is, whether it be a good stress, which is called eustress, a neutral stress, which is called neustress, or a negative stress, which is distress, our body physiologically can't tell the difference. So it's going to produce cortisol and adrenaline. Adrenaline for the short time, cortisol for the long haul. All right. So the more stress we have, the more cortisol we have, the more anxious we get, the more adrenaline we have at the time, the more racy our heart rate gets, the more anxious we get, and then we get anxious about being anxious, and that makes it even worse. All right. So Selye told us that stress doesn't matter, and too much stress is going to lead to anxiety. All right. So in other words, that means that you're in college and you have papers due. Okay, that's a stress. Now you work, so you have to get to work on time, and you moderately care what kind of person you are in society, so you want to do a good job at work. That's another stress. You have stress of getting to work, then you have stress of doing well. Maybe you are in your early 20s, late teens, so you have a relationship. Okay, that's a good thing, but it's still stress. Or maybe you don't have one. Okay, that's not a good thing in your mind, and there's more stress. All right, then you see the gas prices going up. That's stress, especially when you're in your early 20s, late teens. Well, really for all of us, but when they're living more paycheck to paycheck and they got to commute to college, commute to school, commute to high school, that's even more stress. So we have all these stresses adding up. And again, some of them can be positive, like relationship-wise, and maybe vacations are planned, but that's still stress. So all these stresses are collecting up. And now your body was designed to be in action. Because remember, it wasn't designed for today's society. It wasn't. We now have to adapt. And we do adapt. We've adapted fine. But it doesn't mean there's not a cost to that adaptation, because the cost is we have stress and we have anxiety. But so we live in today's society. And so we're like, okay, I have all this cortisol. I have all this adrenaline, and then let alone the other things that might happen, road rage, people driving near you, people almost hitting your car, people treating you poorly, people acting like jerks in public, so all these other stresses, all this stress, you have nowhere to burn it. Again, we think we're, and I say this just to get you to understand that, I'm not trying to be condescending about the human race by any means, but it's just funny how much better we think we are. And it's like, well, wait a minute, for any dog owner out there knows, if their dog is cooped up because of a thunderstorm and it's maybe a hurricane, if you live here in Florida, and we know for 2 days, it's hard to take your dog out because first you have the pre-storm, which is nasty, then you have the storm and the post, and so it's really tough, and you're doing all you can to get them to go to the bathroom, but you can't get them on walks. We know they go stir crazy, and they're also experiencing the stress of the weather. So you're watching your dog cooped up, and it's really upset. It's whining. It's acting out a little bit, and which it should, And we're like, God, if I could just take it on a walk, she would feel so much better, be able to burn off some of this energy. Well, you're no different. You're no different, because you have all these stresses, and then most of us have a sedentary job, and that includes me. I'm a personal trainer, but my job is sedentary. I'm sitting here right now doing this podcast. When I train people, sure, I'm standing up, but I'm standing there. Of course, there's the showing people how to do a certain exercise, but usually that's with people early on, or it's a new exercise. So it's not the entire workout. I mean, some people, it's literally just, setting the exercise and telling them to go. And that's a sedentary job. And sure, I'm cleaning up a little afterwards and all that stuff, but that's still sedentary. And most of us, I would say most of us, if not all of us listening to this podcast, has a sedentary job. So if we're not going out of our way to exercise and to move, of course we feel more anxious. Of course we do. We have to burn off that adrenaline. We have all this adrenaline. We have to burn it off. And the way we burn it off, whatever creator you believe in knew what she was doing. And if you just believe in biology, fine. Knew what it was doing. It said, you know what? You're going to feel better after you move, because movement is what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to sit there and do this. In our world, we have to. Most of our jobs now are all on computers. There's so much remote meetings and all this kind of stuff. Absolutely. But we have to move. We have to move. And so if we don't have a very active job, like again, most of us don't, then we're going to have to move structurally, like in the form of exercise. It's going to have to become something you plan into your day, because it's just not naturally a part of your day. And whatever that is, it really doesn't matter. I mean, there's been all kinds of different research on what creates the greatest, quote, exercise high, which is really just a reduction in adrenaline and a reduction in cortisol and an increase in endorphins. That's pretty much, and a spike in dopamine. So that's like why we get that exercise high. So let me repeat that. A reduction in adrenaline, a reduction in cortisol, an increase in dopamine, and an increase in endorphins. That's why we feel more relaxed after we exercise. Pretty much the studies show that cardiorespiratory exercise gives that the greatest increase, but strength training does as well. So a perfect combination would be both. But some people need to go for their 3-mile run to get it. That's great. Some people go for a 5-mile walk. That's great. Some people do it in the pool and swim. That's great. Some people just love to go to the gym and put on their AirPods and hit the weights hard. Again, that's great. But we have to move. We have to move. All right. So there is a method to the madness. There is a reason why our anxiety levels are lowered once we exercise. Absolutely. All right. We're born to move. We're made to move. That's absolutely. So if you feel it, I've recently had people say, I feel so much better because I'm exercising, my anxiety levels are less. And I'm like, yeah, totally makes sense. We're born to move, So remember that. And remember, it's raising your endorphins, it's raising your dopamine. Those are good things. And we're decreasing the adrenaline and we're decreasing the cortisol. So we're doing all that. Now, one final caveat on that. Yes, it can be overdone. So people overtrain, just like Saley said. So it's too much stress is a bad thing. So if we overtrain, if we overdo it, it will actually increase the cortisol levels as well. I wish I could give you a formula on what that point is, but it's different for everybody because it just depends on their personal levels of adaptations. But the old adage I've used forever when it comes to that is you can go long or you can go hard, but you can't do both. So in other words, if you're a LSD person, long, slow distance, and that's majority of your training, meaning your aerobic pace is somewhat hard, but never really too hard. That you go long, but you're keeping your pace down. That's really, really critical. And for some of you, maybe that don't do a lot of training, you think, well, that's common sense and easy, but it's probably the most violated in the exercise world. Like people will go on their quote long runs and their pace is way too fast. It's almost like race pace. So that will lead to some overtraining. So you'll have, it'll be, actually increase your anxiety potentially. And I've seen that and I've actually experienced that. So one rule of thumb is just remember, if you're going to go longer sessions, whatever that means to you, don't go hard. That should be at a comfortable clip. That should be way different than your 5K pace. So, for example, if you go for a longer run, it should be like at least 2 minutes per mile slower than your 5K pace. So it should be really comfortable. Or if you're going to go hard, keep it short. Keep your intervals short. Don't go too long. So really, it's about pulling back. Pay attention to some biological markers, and that'll help you. If your resting heart rate is actually increasing in the morning, that may be a sign of overtraining. If your resting blood pressure's been up a little bit, that's overtraining. If you're not sleeping as well, you might be overtrained. So you can pay attention to those biological markers, but definitely don't let that stop you, because as I said, it really, really, really lowers anxiety. So exercise is such a great way to do that. So until next time, be max fit and be max well.